Shalom. Welcome again, Israel, to Watchmen of the Faith Ministries. My name is PASSOVER, and I'm going to continue where I left off at before. When was the Messiah born? Okay, we want to destroy this myth. The Messiah was not born on December the 25th, and the Messiah was not born during the time of Passover. Okay, the Messiah was born what we call the 7th month, the 7th Sabbath month, and that month is called the month of Ethanim. Some of us might know about the month of Tishri. Okay, so we're going to prove all these things in the scriptures because it's been taught to us by our slave masters, okay, that the Messiah was born on December the 25th. And there's no biblical history proving that the Messiah was born on December the 25th. Okay, we're going to keep everything in its Hebraic perspective. We're not going to read the scriptures or try to understand this from a Greco-Roman perspective, because if we do, we're going to miss the point. All right, so what I'm going to do, okay, is jump right into it. And I'm going to go to Luke, the first chapter. I'm going to read 5 through 8. There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea. So right here we see a problem. There's a king that's reigning in Israel, and he's not an Israelite. This Herod here, okay, is an Idumean. He's an Edomite. Edomites, or nobody from another nation, is supposed to reign or rule in Jerusalem. Okay? And the reason why we have this situation here is because we collectively, as the people, broke the laws, statutes, and commandments. And this was the beginning of the downfall of the nation of Israel, because we did not come back collectively as the people into covenant relationship with the Heavenly Father. Now, let me read verse 5 again. There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias. Now, special emphasis now is being put on Zacharias, okay? Because understanding Zacharias and Elizabeth is going to help us to understand the birth of the Messiah. Now, Zacharias now was of the course of Abijah. The word or the name Abijah is going to be very important again in helping us to understand, okay, the birth of the Messiah. Zacharias was of the 8th course. Abijah is of the 8th course, and Zechariah is following the course of Abijah. And his wife was of the daughters of Aaron. So this makes Aaron's wife, Elizabeth, a Levite. Okay? And Zechariah was also a Levite. And her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before the Father. And that's very important for us to understand that both Elizabeth and Zechariah were both righteous, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord or the Messiah blamelessly. And that's very important that we understand. This husband and wife team understood Torah, and they worked collectively together, pulling together, striving together, and making sure that they were the perfect examples of the Messiah in the world. So this is our example, Elizabeth and Zacharias. Let that be your landmark or your goal, okay, to walk blamelessly as a husband and wife before the Messiah. Okay, verse 7. And they had no child because that Elizabeth was barren, and they both were now well stricken in years. Now, verse 8 is very important. And it came to pass that while he, which is Zacharias, executed the priest's office before the Most High in the order of his course. What was the order of the course? You would have to then go back to verse 5. The order of his course was the course of Abijah. Okay, that's going to be very, very important, again, in helping us to understand the birth of the Messiah. Now, with that understanding, let's go to 1 Chronicles, the 24th chapter. 1 Chronicles, the 24th chapter. Twenty-four, 3 to 4. 24. First Chronicles 24, 3 to 4. Here we have it here. And David distributed them, both Zadok of the sons of Eleazar and Ahimelech of the sons of Ithamar, according to their offices in their service. And there were more chief men found of the sons of Eleazar than of the sons of Ithamar. And thus were they divided. Among the sons of Eleazar, there were 16 chief men. So remember that number 16. There were 16 chief men of Eleazar, and 8 among the sons of Ithamar, according to the house of their fathers. So what David now is doing here now, he's organizing, okay, a system here where the priest's office is going to serve in the temple all year around. And 16 plus 8 is 24. David got together and assembled 24 priests to service the temple. All right. Now, with that understanding, let's now, again, like I just said, and now he established a rotating system that divided priests into 24 groups who would be chosen to serve in the temple, so that the temple would be serviced all year around. All right, so that was what David was doing. That's what David was doing in First Chronicles, the 24th chapter, 3 to 4. Let's now go to First Chronicles 28. 28, I'm going to read 11 to 13. Then David gave to Solomon, his son, the pattern of the porch, and of the houses thereof, and of the treasures thereof, and of the upper chambers thereof, and of the inner parlors thereof, and of the place of the mercy seat, and the pattern of all that he had by the Spirit of the courts of the house of the Lord, and of all the chambers round about, and of the treasures of the house of the Father, and of the treasures of the dedicated things. Also for the courses of the priests and the Levites, and for all the works of the service of the house of the Lord, and for all the vessels of service in the house of the Lord. And so we see now again, here, this is just elaborating on what I said before. David set up 24 priests, okay, to service in the temple so that the temple would not be unoccupied, because somebody always had to be in the temple doing a temple service. And so David established this rotating system so that the temple will always be serviced. Okay, now I want to go to First Chronicles 24, 17 and 9. I have a whole lot of notes here, so just bear with me. Okay, this is First Chronicles 24, and I'm going to read 7 to 19. Now the first lot came forth to Jehoiarib. Okay, so Jehoiarib, it was his position first to serve in the temple. Then after him was, who we have here? The second here was Yedahiah. The third came to Hiram. The fourth to Seorim. The fifth to Malachiah. The sixth to Maajimim. The seventh to Hakaz. The eighth to Abijah. So it's very important again for us to understand the course of Zacharias. Zacharias was of the 8th course. Okay, the 8th course, and the 8th course was Abijah. And again, David set up 24 priests to service the temple. And each of these priests was to service the temple twice that year. And 24 times 2 is 48. It's very important that we understand those numbers here now, okay? Because we're gonna be doing a lot of simple arithmetic so that we can get the clear understanding of when was the birth of the Messiah. Now, what you can do now, you can read all the way down from 24, 7 to 19, but I just read from 7 to verse 10 because I just wanted to bring out the fact that Zacharias was of the course of Abijah, and Abijah is the 8th course. And Zacharias, again, is following the course of Abijah. All right, now, what I also want to do is to go to 2 Chronicles, all right? 2 Chronicles 23 and 8. 2 Chronicles 23 and 8. So the Levites and all Judah did according to all things that Yedahiah the priest had commanded, and took every man his men that were to come in on the Sabbath. So a priest will come in and service the temple on a Sabbath, okay, with them that were to go out on the Sabbath. So for one Sabbath to the next Sabbath, a priest would service the temple. Then after he was done, another priest would come in, okay, and service the temple, so that the temple was always operational throughout the whole year, from Sabbath to Sabbath. With them that were to go out on the Sabbath, for Yedahiah the priest dismiss not the courses. All right, that's very important for us to understand. I'm gonna go to First Chronicles 9:25 also. First Chronicles 9:25, I believe that is 9:25. And their brethren which were in their villages were to come after 7 days from time to time with them. Okay, so again, this is just showing, okay, that from one Sabbath to the next Sabbath, okay, a priest was to serve in office, and after his tour of duty was over, again, another priest would come in and he would serve from that Sabbath to the next Sabbath. All right. Now, we have to also understand too now that there was a certain time, during certain times of the year, all priests had to be, okay, in Jerusalem servicing the temple. And that's in Deuteronomy 16:16. All right, Deuteronomy 16:16. 3 times a year shall all thy males appear before the Most High thy husband, in the place which he shall choose. In the place where the Messiah chose to place his name is Jerusalem. In the feast of unleavened bread, that's one. In the feast of weeks, some people call it the feast of, they call it Pentecost, which I have no problem with it because the word Penti means 50. But I like to keep everything in its Hebraic perspective. I like to say feast of weeks as much as I can anyway. Feast of weeks. And the third one, and in the Feast of Tabernacles. And they should not appear before the Messiah empty. Now, the point that I wanted to make now is that there's 24 priests. 24 times 2 is 48. But 3 times a year, all males must report to Jerusalem. Now, 48 plus 3, okay, is 51. There's 51 weeks in a year. There's 4 weeks in a month, okay? And there's 12 months in a year. So 12 times 4 is 48. Remembering now, 3 times a year, all males must report to Jerusalem, and 48 plus 3 is 51. There's 354 days, okay, in a lunar calendar year. We as Hebrew Israelites, we follow the lunar calendar year, okay? We don't get too involved, but we understand that we are in exile, and they, you know, during this captivity here, what we do now is that we're under this wicked vibration. So, but we're following the solar calendar, which is 365 days of the year. So again, I just want to make sure that we understand this clearly, because, all right, the Messiah has an appointment book, and everything is going according to the appointment book. All right. So again, there's 351 days in a solar calendar year. Now, with that understood, okay, because the biblical calendar year begins at the month of Nisan. All right, and it's very important for us to understand that, again, in understanding and keeping this this thing in its proper Hebraic perspective, so that we can know how to tell time, so we can understand when the Messiah was born. Okay, now, with that understanding, let's go to Luke. Let's go back to Luke, the first chapter. Let's go back to Luke, Matthew, Mark, Luke, the first chapter, and I'm going to be reading. Let's see, where we can start off. The 23rd chapter. It says, and it came to pass that as soon as the days of his office were accomplished. Now, what we need to do now is find out when this event right here, verse 23, is talking about. This month here is now the 10th week, okay? This is now the month of Sivan. The month begins between March and April. We have here March, okay? There's 4 weeks in a month. So the first month of Aviv, okay, is, again, what you're going to have to do now is just go online and get a Hebrew calendar, and you will be able to better understand what I'm talking about. If there's any misunderstandings, I can easily clear it up. Okay, with that, I'm going to have to stop and say shalom.